So, folks, let's open up the show tonight by talking about Senator Rand Paul, who I have to tell you guys has no business being correct about anything, because I've been watching Rand Paul for quite some time, and most of the time he is incredibly incorrect about the things he's talking about. And yet today he managed to go on kind of a tear when cross-examining Marco Rubio. And we're going to take a watch and see what you guys think of this, because it's rare for me to see Rand Paul actually do something correct.
Our founders debated extensively over which branch of government should have the power to declare or initiate war. Virtually unanimously, they decided, and what was entered into the Constitution was that the declaration or initiation of war would be the power of Congress. Now, we have many advocates, many of whom are here today, who have been advocates for an expansive notion of presidential power. They often argue that wars are not really wars, that they're kinetic actions or drug busts. I think, though, if you reverse the circumstances, it becomes very difficult for these arguments to hold up. So I would ask you, if a foreign country bombed our air defense missiles, captured and removed our president, and blockaded our country, would that be considered an act of war?
Well, I think...
Okay, it's fine. Scotty Too Hottie, it's fine if you like aggression. I can also be aggressive. Fuck you. There, did that help? Do I just need to tell you to go fuck yourself enough, and you'll like me more? Like, go fuck yourself. Stop making excuses for transphobic pieces of shit. Like, does that help? I hope so. If you really like aggression, we can get more aggressive. Why you coming into my chat standing a transphobic, hateful piece of shit? Stop it. You can not do that. That's actually an option available to you. So go fuck yourself until you fix whatever issue you have here.
Your question is about and I will acknowledge you've been very consistent on all these points the entire career. So let me no matter who's in charge. So I will point to two things. The first is it's hard for us to conceive that an operation that lasted about 4.5 hours and was a law enforcement operation to capture someone we don't recognize as a head of state, indicted in the United States, wanted with a $50 million bounty.
My question would be, if it only took 4 hours to take our president, it's very short, nobody dies on the other side, nobody dies on our side, it's perfect. Would it be an act of war?
We just don't believe that this operation comes anywhere close to the constitutional definition of war.
But would it be an act of war if someone did it to us? Nobody dies, few casualties, they're in and out. Boom, it's a perfect military operation. Would that be an act of war? Of course it would be an act of war. I'm probably the most anti-war person in the Senate, and I would vote to declare war if someone invaded our country and took our president. So I think we need...
Like, the thing is, like, Marco Rubio, of course, can't answer yes. Of course he can't answer, yeah, if somebody did the exact same things to us, it would be an act of war. He can't answer yes. But, like, the fact that Rand Paul is able to, like, corner him and get this, like, wild stuff. Scotty Too Hottie, in a just world, people who think like you would get beaten in the streets. Like, stop it. When you're like, oh, identity politics. Bitch, identity politics and the organizing around them, and specifically civil rights for people different than non-white straight men, Scotty, is what literally got us equality under the law in this country. Shut the fuck up. When you're like, oh, I really like aggression, suddenly, when someone gets a little aggressive with you, you're like, well, the identity politics shouldn't be dividing us. Identity politics shouldn't be dividing us. I stand by that. Don't tell me to go fuck myself. Go fuck yourself. Like, understand how fucking weak you are. Understand how fucking weak you are. You need someone to project anger and aggression at the people you don't like, and you're willing to make excuses for them being a bigoted piece of shit just because they're angry? Guess what? I'm angry at you. And it's way more justified because you're coming in here telling me that folks who hate people like me, who think I deserve to be a second-class fucking citizen, who think that I should be pushed out of being able to exist in public life, you're coming to me and saying, oh, this shouldn't be an issue. Whoa. Whoa. You have the mentality of a child, of a fucking baby. Think for your goddamn self, Scotty. And understand that there is justice in this world, and that you are on the wrong side of it when you stand with bigots, and when you make excuses for bigots. Bigots are not children, they are free-thinking agents. They can choose to stop being bigots. Stop it. So when I see someone who comes into chat and just has a slight disagreement with me, that's fine. But that disagreement cannot be about whether or not I deserve equal rights to you. So anyway, you told me you liked aggression. There you go. Have fun with it, you piece of shit.
To at least acknowledge this is a one-way argument. One-way arguments that don't rebound, that you can't apply to yourselves, that cannot be universally applicable are bad arguments. So my next question would be, let's say it's not a war. And we're just going to define it away and say it's not a war. That's one of the arguments. So it's a drug bust.
I also like hugs, Blossom loves tea.
What if a foreign country indicts our president for violating a foreign law? Should we extradite our president, or should we be okay if they come in and get him by force?
Look, I think ultimately we're always going to act in our national interest. And so if somebody comes after our national interest, like the case you've described, which obviously does not exist at this time, but the case you've described, the U.S. always has the right to act in its national interest and to protect itself.
So really
I don't know about this equivalency. Well, does this justify them doing it? We're always going to do what's best for the United States and America. We're always going to protect our system.
But the point isn't, and you're exactly right, we will act in our national interest and we should. So I'm not disagreeing with you at all. What I'm saying is, though, that our arguments are empty then. The drug bust isn't really an argument, it's a ruse. The war argument, not a war, is a ruse. It's not a real argument. And we do what we do because we have the force.
It's in our national interest for the world to hate us. That is the argument that he's making there, yeah. Because again, in the world of someone like Marco Rubio, the thought process is essentially, oh, well, the United States is the world hegemon. We have a bigger military than anyone else, so no one could possibly retaliate against us in any way that matters. Ha 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 ha. Don't look at the people selling our bonds.
Of the might, we do it because it's in our interest. So we wouldn't let anybody come in, bomb us, blockade us, and take our president. We've had arguments about legitimate, illegitimate presidents, bad elections, rigged elections. So there's all kinds of same arguments that we've had in our country that they've had in Venezuela. But we wouldn't argue for an indictment. And these things aren't idle speculation. I mean, Netanyahu's been indicted by the ICC. And one of the reasons I object to
Sake Tanuki.
Over 115 years of shot reverse shot, and they can't make the two of them face each other?
Nope. Impossible. Impossible, Sake. Thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. We need better cinematography over at C-SPAN.
being part of the ICC, and I would
C-SPAN, hire Ryan Coogler. Do it. Do it. He's hot right now off of Sinners. Get Ryan Coogler to direct your coverage.
say you and the administration probably agree is we're not going to let any international council indict our president and arrest him somewhere in foreign soil.
We're not side, but that's a hat on a hat.
True.
Not going to do that. We actually, most of us probably object to indicting Netanyahu in that way as well. So I think the arguments are invalid. So we did get the legal opinion that Senator Kaine referred to, the OLC opinion, Office of Legal Counsel. And I think a lot of it...
Rand Paul is against the ICC, LTEC. Well, yeah, Rand Paul is like, he's basically an anarcho-capitalist. Like, the fact that he's right even to rake Marco Rubio over the coals at all is astounding to me. But yeah, no, he does not think the UN or any kind of, like, international governing body should exist. because he's against governing bodies as a concept.
Been released. Plus, they came to our caucus and talked most of the open about everything they had classified. So I will talk about at least one of the arguments. They say this war wasn't a constitutional war, therefore it doesn't rise to the constitutional notion of us declaring or having to initiate the war. It just doesn't rise. And one of their main arguments was not enough people died. And so there is some number that they aren't specific, but there is some number. I would assume, although I'm not positive, but the 50, 60,000 soldiers who died in Vietnam might be enough for them to call that a war. But here's the problem. It isn't the number, it's that it happens in retrospect. See, our founders gave us the power to initiate or declare
Rand
war.
Paul also struggled to eat a fun-size candy during a filibuster.
Didn't Rand Paul also get beaten up by his neighbor? I think I recall that.
They didn't give us other powers to execute the war. Those are left to the president. But if we have to wait to see how many people are killed, we have to wait, as they describe it, as the scope, nature, and extent. If we have to wait to see the scope, nature, and extent, the war has been going on for some time. It's hard to vote to initiate a war that's been going on. And we can say this war is over, but we're still blockading it, and we may go back in. But there are no clear answers. You know, we put 2,000, we leave 2,000 troops in. Are we going to call that war and initiate it? So the definition of war is very important. And I think we have to acknowledge the problems with our argument. Calling things kinetic action is a disservice to our soldiers. Oh, you weren't really wounded in war. You don't have a Medal of Honor for...
Also, just, okay, yeah, in the attack, his neighbor, according to Rand Paul, punched him 10 feet in the air. I don't know how that's possible, but according to Rand Paul, his neighbor hit him so hard that he flew 10 feet up in the air. Yeah, I don't even know how this is possible. Yeah, like a goddamn Looney Tune.
War, you have a Medal of Honor for a kinetic action. So I think let's call it what it is, and let's vote on these things. But I think we're in violation of both the spirit and the law of the Constitution by bombing a capital, blockading a country, and removing elected officials. And we certainly wouldn't tolerate it, nor would I if someone did it to us.
Well, we didn't remove an elected official. We removed someone who was not elected, and it was actually an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and their system...
Our laws, indicted under our laws. Look, Bolsonaro says that Da Silva is not really the president of Brazil. Our president said Biden wasn't really the president. Hillary Clinton said in 2016...
His neighbor Popeye, also howdy.
Howdy, Andrew S. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Yeah, his neighbor apparently, by the way, the assault on Rand Paul was undertaken because his neighbor was mad seeing Rand Paul stack yard waste on Rand Paul's own lawn near his neighbor's yard. And so his neighbor flew into a rage and just beat his ass. And then got sentenced to, like, prison time and hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines and damages. Don't assault a member of Congress, folks. Don't do it.
Trump wasn't the president. So you have these arguments, and I agree with you. It probably was, and most likely was, most assuredly was a bad election. He wasn't really elected. But at the same time, if that's our predicate, and you don't have to come to us because it's a drug bust, we're just removing somebody, you can see where it leads to, and it leads to chaos. And that's why we have rules like the Constitution, so we don't get so far out there that presidents can do whatever they want. It is this check and balance. And I would argue for 70 years we've been going the wrong way. It isn't just this president, but it's a debate that I think is worth having.
He literally can't eat fun-sized candy.
Oh my God.
Which had previously brought a challenge in federal court to the legality of the authorization to target our released the following statement. This is from the Center for Constitutional Rights. The assassination of al-Awlaki by American drone attacks is the latest of many affronts to domestic and international law. The targeted assassination program that started under Bush and was expanded under Obama essentially grants the executive the power to kill any U.S. citizen deemed to be a threat without any judicial oversight.
God, that it is weird watching someone eat something while delivering remarks in Congress. It's deeply weird. He needs a bib. Do you think they make, like, you know, fun-sized bibs for fun-sized candies? Oh, God. It really is just a wild time. Rand Paul out here being correct about whether or not the world should consider removing another world leader an act of war. Like, of course it's an act of war. God damn it, we need to constrain the powers of the presidency. I want to see him and Bovino try to eat a normal-sized meal. Oh, God. I think he wanted to look nonchalant, eating and talking, but it was very chalant, is maybe the best way I've ever seen that described. All right. Also, I just have to say, it's wild that we have to have this conversation in the first place, right? Like, of course it's an act of war. We shouldn't have to have, like, a grilling of the Secretary of State in order to establish that sending our military in to bomb the capital of another nation and steal away that nation's leader is an act of war. This shouldn't be, like, arguable. Of course it is. It's not a law enforcement operation. Like, if Iran called it a law enforcement operation and abducted Donald Trump, like, there's no one in a position of power who'd be like, that's not an act of war. There just wouldn't be. Like, we all know that that's an act of war. We all know that's a provocation. Like, you don't need, like, an expert level knowledge of international or domestic law. The president is above the law? No, he's not. And he shouldn't be treated like he is. It's just such a sorry state things have come to with the Republican Party that, like, Rand Paul has to try and rake Rubio over the coals to try and get some semblance of a check on the president.
Riverboat deck is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.